I've always considered myself to be a very tolerant fellow. But there are times when you come across a story or an instance that completely blows all uh, reasoning and understanding out of the water. It completely cuts the legs off of tolerance, of working with people and groups, and such is the case today. I ran across a story where there's a group that's trying to have the cross taken down from the 9/11 museum. And I am right now in a state of total delusion, total. I'm not understanding the reason. And so I'll say straight up that atheism is a mental illness. And that alone is enough to have people banging on my door. But I believe that now. And I'll tell you why. Nobody is offended by a cross or the display of the Ten Commandments. Nobody is offended by that. There is no reason to be there's no backing to it. If you are a uh, mentally stable person, if you uh, if you can add 2 plus 2, then there should be absolutely no reason to even claim that you are offended by any religious symbol, including the manger during Christmas. Now, 9/11, it was a very, yes, it was a absolute tragedy. It was a horror to see so many people die right on our televisions, and many people saw it right with their bare eyes. It was also, I believe, a, without sounding insincere, it was a necessary step in the plan, if you will, for America to gain that partial recollection of what it means to come together in a time of crisis, to bring back to the idea of, like when World War II came to the onset, of a nation under the Constitution, a free people coming together to resolve a problem. And so, obviously, there were hundreds of first responders, policemen, firefighters that uh, came to the rescue at 9/11 at the World Trade Center towers. During the cleanup, uh, some first responders erected a cross created out of bound steel beams from the World Trade Center. There are visuals like that, as well as uh, a fireman carrying an injured child. There's another one of a fireman um, uh, with an American flag in a very special situation, if you will. And of course, there's the videotape of President George Bush when he was sitting before the children at a school, and he is being told by one of his aides what had happened. And, that's another one of those American uh, times that people have burned into their minds. And there's other images of 9/11 as well. But every one of these images are not only faith promoting, but they also instill thought. They instill sentiment. They instill compassion. They instill that hope of a oneness of nation, whether it be at the present time or in the future. It represents a growing fact, a knowledge that at various times America can come together, a free people, each with their own individual conscience, each practicing his or her own religious beliefs, can come together. And so, over the past several years, maybe a couple decades or so, people have come out of the woodwork like termites to profess their disdain, their offense over religious symbols. Not far from where I live, at a county courthouse, for decades, they had right on the corner of their lot marble tablets of the Ten Commandments. That was challenged. And so what eventually happened was the local American Legion Club bought just that corner of the lot. It's probably only like 10 feet wide or 15 feet wide. It's just a triangle piece that they bought in order to leave the Ten Commandments there. And that's the same gosh darn thing. No one in their right mind can be offended by that. When you know in your heart that for scores of people, seeing that brings not only happiness, but also hope. It also reminds them to instill certain principles and precepts into their family, to bring it into their homes. They want their children exposed to those religious symbols. And so, at this part, I'm just completely dumbfounded as to why an atheist or an atheist group would have any problem with this. Because religion or not, why wouldn't even an atheist support any object that would promote hope in any individual? And I'll say the same thing about the tree huggers out there, the environmentalists. Same darn thing. If they want to have a special tree right in the center of town, I have no problem with it. If that gives them hope, if they want to view that thing as a god, I really don't care if they get down in front of it 3 times a day and pray to it. I don't care, because I view it as it is their way of acquiring hope. It is their way of finding happiness in their life. It is their way of finding inspiration and direction. In other words, it is their way of taking that basic journey of life that each of us take. So why are we as a people bowing down to such minorities that want to strip us of every ounce of faith, of every ounce of hope that we can muster. This is an agenda of Satan and his imps, pure and outright. There's really no other way to explain it. It has nothing to do with the Constitution and your right of free speech. It has nothing to do with well, it does have everything to do with the right to worship. If I want to have, at Christmas time, a manger in my front yard, if I want to go so far as to have the wise men as statues or even real people stand there, if I want to go out there and kneel at a statue of Jesus in the manger and to invite my daughter to stand there as well, I have the right to do that. That is my right of free speech. And I really don't give a rat's behind if you are quote unquote offended by that, because number one, that's on private property and I can do on it as I please. Now, public property, to me, that is the root of the argument. Public property, fine. What is the will of the public? Now, if you find yourself in some liberal, fascist sector of the nation, which there are several, if the public desires, a completely atheist view, well then, even though I don't agree with it, in order to keep the peace, I guess that's fine. But you don't go into like middle America where religious symbols are just fine and in fact encouraged, and you don't come in here and flash your quote unquote unconstitutional rights and start professing with your crying eyes that you are offended by the display of the Ten Commandments, that you're offended by a holy Bible displayed on the desk of a judge. Now, I said at the top that atheism is a mental illness, and I stand by that. I'm a very tolerant person. I treat everybody with respect. But I expect a tad bit of humanity in this. You can keep your atheist views, and you can exercise tolerance, you can exercise indifference, you can exercise understanding of others that have no problem, and in fact encourage and find hope in the religious symbols, even on public grounds, whether it be the Ten Commandments, whether it be a cross bound together by steel beams representing a place where over 2,000 Americans died, because that gives us hope. That gives us a resolve as Americans to come together. So, as my final thought, I would just say to all the atheists out there to shut up and exercise a little conscience. And I hope somebody hears that.